You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
All right, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. Here today for episode 144. As always, my name is Caemeron and Ryan, the executive editor for TVObsessive.com, and I'm joined by Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for the site. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing good. Ready for a long one today. Got my energy drink and my snack and everything. We got a lot to go
Yeah,
through today.
I got some coffee over here. What Ryan's referring to, we're going to be a little bit different than usual today because we want to talk about Paradise. We've been covering Hijack, and the two shows are overlapping for us. So what we're going to do is we'll chat a little bit about what's been in the news and such as per usual. We don't have a lot this week, and that works out for our plan in a certain way. Then, kind of as per usual, we'll talk about Hijack season 2, episode 7. Take another little break or put another little musical interlude in, and then we're going to talk about the season premiere of Paradise. Season 2 came out the other day with 3 episodes. Um, as we were saying before we got on, Ryan, right? It was like maybe won't have as much depth as if they put out one a week, but I do think it's best if they put out these 3 and we can talk about them all together. And that should be fruitful. So hopefully people are watching Paradise. If you haven't listened, we did a podcast a few months ago on season
Mm.
1. I'm not sure how long ago that was actually, but you could find that if you're so inclined. Anyway, that's the plan. It's February 25th. This means also that Night of the Seven Kingdoms wrapped up on Sunday. I want to talk about this briefly, Ryan. I've been enjoying the show a lot. Been enjoying reading your articles on it each week, which people can find on TVObsessive.com if you haven't read them already. I think some good work there. I don't know how much to say about it, but yeah, I mean, sort of in kind of classic Game of Thrones style. Episode 5 was sort of the climax. The episode of the season was sort of denouement or what have you. But then I'm really excited about where it's going, and I guess we're only going to have to wait a year or something, right? They're saying 2027 already, anyway.
Yeah, everything I've seen, heard, read, sort of leads us to believe that about a year from now we'll get this show again. I mean, that's certainly something to say with lower budget, less CGI. We don't have to build the dragons and do all of that work.
Yeah,
So certainly lower stakes and different perspectives for this show. So we should get to the next season in early part of 2027. Yeah, I really, I think people may come to this conclusion of reading the things that I wrote, but I really enjoyed this season, really enjoyed the adaptation. Was I think we've mentioned last week, cautiously optimistic going into the finale because we had essentially finished the book at the end of episode 5. So there were a
yeah.
lot of creative, adaptive choices that they had to make for this finale, but I think that they did them all well for the most part, and set up what was really just a nice segue into what season 2, book 2 is going to be. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I just really enjoy the vibe of the show. And you're right, too. I mean, in terms of them being able to put out season 2 next year, and they've told us that, okay, well, it's also, 6 half-hour long episodes as
That's
opposed
right.
to,
Yeah.
10 1-hour episodes or whatever. I don't know how many episodes are in the upcoming season of House of the Dragon. We also did get a trailer for that. It's going to come out this summer. People are into that. But totally different vibes with the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And I just really enjoyed it. Like I've been watching House of the Dragon, as I know you've written on it, plan to again. And there are ways in which my highest level of enjoyment with House of the Dragon is almost like nostalgia for when Game of Thrones was good.
Yeah.
But Night of the
Yeah.
Seven Kingdoms just feels entirely different. The vibe's entirely different. If people haven't checked it out, I found it to be just a kind of really almost heartwarming show, which is kind of a
Yeah.
weird thing to say about
Yeah.
something set in
And,
this
and I
universe.
don't know that
Yeah.
we've talked about this or that I put this really in any of the pieces that I wrote. They basically nailed the casting of the 2 leads of this show. I mean, I don't know how they could have done much better. Dunk and Egg, the 2 actors that they've found to play these characters, I just absolutely adore the pairing that they have together.
Yeah, I agree. And no familiarity with either of them before this personally. I haven't looked to see even what else that they have done. Um, so yeah, anyway, in terms of the news, we've got one big thing to talk about, and that's about it. We already had the plan of trying to be a little bit quicker on this portion than usual, but that wasn't terribly hard. I was saying, Ryan, I don't feel like I really passed over too much. I mean, we have the trailer for House of the Dragon. I mentioned already, you want to watch the trailer for season 3. They also released a trailer for the next season of For All Mankind,
Yeah.
which I was not super happy about in a way because, I've been trying to catch up on that show.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I just finished season 3. So I'm in like the worst possible space for a trailer to drop in terms of avoiding spoilers. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
definitely didn't watch the trailer, but even just people making brief comments or whatever, because it's like people die on that show.
Sure.
So is it really a spoiler to know that like the guy who's basically the main character is still alive? I guess not, but I'm being very careful. So um, anyway, the big news item is something we've hit on before, but it looks like it's actually happening, starting to happen. This would be Ryan Coogler's X-Files reboot. We got casting announcement. Danielle Deadweiler. It does seem this is going to be a reboot. There's not a ton more information at this point, but I don't know. Thoughts about this, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly intriguing, certainly because you sort of see the highlights of this the beginning of this piece. Yeah, X-Files reboot, Danielle Deadweiler, and then obviously Ryan Coogler being attached to it, which is sort of the huge news coming off of this massive year that Sinners is having. We're going to see soon how well that movie does at the Oscars. But maybe I was confused or just anticipated this incorrectly. I thought he was going to be Coogler. Was going to be involved sort of heavily in this show. This says he's going to write the pilot and direct the pilot, but no more confirmation of his involvement beyond that. Do you get a sense that he's going to do more than that first episode?
I definitely thought so. I mean, I think it's maybe this seems odd, but my read of it is actually they're just ordering a pilot. They're not giving it a direct-to-series order,
Yeah.
which I feel like you've been seeing more of again recently. For a while, you weren't so much seeing that old school, hey, make a pilot and then we'll decide kind of
Yeah.
plan. But I think that's what's going on here. And I'd be surprised if he wasn't on board as the showrunner if they pick it up. But I guess I don't know for sure.
And
You're right. I don't know for
yeah,
sure.
and that's what's interesting is they talk in this article about Coogler being a partner, maybe a producer on the show, but then they also think that they have identified someone that they're naming a showrunner, someone named Jennifer Yale, who most recently has done a Copenhagen test on Peacock. And so it's like, would you name a showrunner if it didn't have more than just the pilot? There's no
Okay. Yeah, you're
confirmation one
right.
way or the
Okay.
other
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
I kind of missed that or glossed it over or whatever. I was just caught up in the Ryan Coogler of it all. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's some ambiguity there. Um, it may be one of those things where ultimately he is executive producer or something like this, and
Yeah.
you might feel a little unclear how involved he is. But I mean, I expect that if this happens for real, he's going to be involved because the whole starting point I thought was him wanting to do this, right?
I
Uh,
thought that was the case as well. You think about, well, my mind goes to, the association J.J. Abrams had with Lost, where, actually after a few episodes, he wasn't involved in that show anymore. And so I wonder if, the situation where he sort of launches it into the stratosphere and then says, okay, you know, Chris Carter and Jennifer Yale and the others that are going to be associated with this, good luck. I'll be there if you need me. But my hope would be, I would certainly, I think, pay more attention if he was involved throughout.
and it'll probably do it that way one way or another. We might not know for sure how involved he is and how involved he isn't without inside behind the scenes scoops or whatever. But
Yeah.
I definitely expect that they'll keep, attaching his name to this and put it out as like Ryan Coogler's The X Files, and everything. I'm more curious as a fan of the X Files what exactly they're going to do here. Is it going to be set in present time?
Yeah.
That would be, I don't know, something of a challenge, but maybe that's part of the idea. It might feel a little weird alternately if it was not in the present, if they went to the past or something like that. Is it going to be in continuity with the existing X-Files? To what extent? I know there were some rumors out there about the possibility of Gillian Anderson appearing in the show, maybe as a cameo kind of thing, or who knows to what degree. So yeah, just more than anything, really curious about where this all goes, what it ends up looking like, and also it's another one of those things where there's a part of me that's very kind of nervous about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, don't wreck the X Files. But maybe I shouldn't feel that way. I mean, like Chris Carter gets to wreck the X Files as much as he wants, so it'll be fine.
I do sort of enjoy sort of trying to mine the clues from some of the things they release. So there's a official show description which says two highly decorated but vastly different FBI agents form an unlikely bond when they are assigned to a long shuttered division devoted to cases involving unexplained phenomena. So I wonder if that long shuttered division is, ties back to the Mulder and Scully of it all, where you would have Gillian Anderson and others that would be able to make appearances if that's the sort of the tie back directly to it.
Yeah, I mean, and then that would make sense with it being more or less present day, and it would really potentially kind of close the book on any further Mulder and Scully X Files. Um, that's probably okay because I don't think that it was going to happen anyway. You know, um, it's been what 10 years or something since they did those
Yeah.
revival episodes. Almost 10. It probably hasn't been quite 10. Um, so anyway, yeah, something to look forward to on the horizon. And again, hopefully they don't. Hopefully it's good. Right? As I said, even though I made that little clip about Chris Carter wrecking the X Files as much as he wants, I still enjoy the bad stuff. Like I'm one of the people out there who will defend season 8 and season 9 and things like that. But um, all right, so that I mean really that was our one big news item. Let's get to talking about Hijack. Hopefully people have been watching along with us. So we're going to continue here with the last two episodes. Episode 7 today. It'll be episode 8 next week. So we'll put a little bit of music in here, and then spoilers will be on the table for this week's episode of Hijack, season 2, episode 7, Contact.
Okay, we're back to talk about Hijack Season 2, Episode 7 on Apple TV. This episode, titled Contact, was written and directed by Jim Field Smith. We learned that Jess has been shot at the end of Episode 6, but is still alive. Sam convinces her to help him disconnect the rear carriage with the children on board, but the power to the train is cut out, and the GSG-9 come on board, and they end up killing Jess. Sam convinces Winter and the GSG that they can stop the people in charge if they will let them continue with Hijack. Off the train, Lang tells John Bailey Brown that he'll be freed if he cooperates, but Lang then kills Linder, the German agent, for getting suspicious of him. Winter and MI6 get Sam's laptop and see that he has been coerced into the hijacking. Gold and Menzel continue to search for Marcia, but Marcia's able to make a phone call to Daniel that gives a little bit more proof that Sam is being coerced. In prison, Adderton returns to his cell after being interrogated and is given what looks to be a phone from a guard who's clearly on his side. So, a couple different revelations here. Not just about what happened at the end of episode 6, but we had this question about Adderton and what his involvement would be. Somebody's been feeding him information. So, does this mean he is in charge of this thing? Does this mean that he's involved in it? I mean, I think we have to assume that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and start there. This is the very end of the episode. It definitely seems to indicate that he is involved in some way. That makes sense of, well, he got upset previously when he learned that the caravan had been called off. Um, how confident are you that it's a phone? I wasn't entirely clear on what it was that he got from the guard in that fake bar of soap.
Yeah, I
I guess
looked
maybe
at
it was a phone.
two different places that had sort of a recap or description because first the thing when I first saw it, I thought it was like maybe like a gas mask or something or it's something that he would wear, but that there are a couple of different places reference it as a phone or some sort of communication d device. So if that's what it is, great. If not, we'll have to see what it actually he has been passed by this guard.
I definitely personally thought it was something electronic.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe maybe it is a small phone. The other possibility that occurred to me was if it was some kind of detonator or something for the bombs,
Mm.
perhaps. But probably it's a phone. We'll find out for sure next week. Either way, I think that does put us on the path of thinking that he's meaningfully involved. And I'm wondering if, I guess I've had the theory almost from the beginning of the season that the idea of bringing John Bailey Brown to the train was not to free him again, like in season one, but was rather to kill him or something like that. And so this is my current theory on that because the other guy, Lang, he seems to think that the plan is to free John Bailey Brown. So what I'm sort of thinking now is if Stuart Atherton is really the one behind it, then he's using Lang, and Lang thinks they're trying to free John Bailey Brown, but the real plan is to kill him or something, and that's what the phone or whatever is going to enable him to do.
Yeah,
That
in
makes
some
sense. Is
sense
that your
to
read too?
yeah.
Or
That's kind of where I've landed as well, to get Brown out of the safe house and out in the open so that Adderton can do whatever it is he needs to do to communicate to someone to kill this guy, not to actually make a swap and free him, and that just doesn't make sense because you can then track where he's going, whatever. But yeah, he wants to get him out of the open. Lang is just a proxy to be able to do that, and now Adderton's going to arrange the killing. That's at least the hypothesis that I have as well.
same, yeah. So, with only one episode left after this, I think that it's also safe to come to some conclusions about some questions we've raised along the way. You know, um, I suppose I could be wrong, but at this point, as much as I've been suspicious of Faber throughout the season, I guess at this point I just sort of buy it. He actually is who he says he is. He actually did
Yeah.
want to extradite John Bailey Brown. He believes that Sam is being coerced. Like I feel like I almost have no choice but to conclude that okay, Faber actually is who he says he is, and he's basically a good guy at this point. Do you agree on that? I mean, I suppose there could be a big twist on that front in episode 8, but
Yeah, they'd have to do, I think, a lot of work convincing us of something that we have no concept of yet. If they're going to show us that Faber or Thatcher or Winter, anybody else really is is involved on the wrong side at this point. As of now, I think especially talking about Faber specifically because we brought him up. Yeah, I think he's legitimately trying to solve this and figure out why Sam is doing this and is not working for the other side.
yeah, it wouldn't make a ton of sense for me if they twisted it at this point, particularly with this episode and
Yeah.
how it plays out. Olivia as well. I mean, some of these, I don't know, some of the dialogue in multiple settings struck me as a bit, I don't know, ham-fisted or something in this episode. Olivia, getting the call from Marsha and like, this is the proof you've been looking for, and like just the way that played out. And there's another scene on the train where they're losing power, so they have to disconnect the that carriage, as you mentioned, and um, there's this bit of dialogue where Otto says like, "We don't have a lot of time," and then Sam says, "So we better be quick." It's like what? What is this? It's like useless dialogue, practically. Like, get out
Straight
of the
out
way.
of the straight out of the Jack Bauer catalog.
But then we cut away from them and we come back and I don't know how much time has passed, but they still haven't done it. He was like, okay, well, last time we saw you, you said you better be quick. And you're like, I mean, it's been probably at least 5 minutes or something. But what are you waiting for here?
But
I don't know.
I thought in this episode, we've had this conversation before. I thought in this episode, maybe more so than any, that like Yeah, there's some things here we could have cut one episode out of this season, or something we could have. There's some things here we could have shortened up to sort of compact this story a little bit. This one felt like well, we're really just have one or two things we need to reveal. Otherwise, it's just we got some filler stuff before we get into a hopefully a more action-packed finale.
Right. I mean, I was thinking about that too in a certain way that it didn't feel like a whole lot happened. And then I realized that's a bit unfair. I mean, it's fair with regard to Marcia. Like almost nothing happens there. She's so still, you
Yeah.
know, uh, hiding in the woods or whatever. She manages to call Daniel. Okay. Um, but when it comes to the situation on the train, there are some pretty significant developments, right? I mean, Jess dies. They detach the carriage and they end up letting a bunch of people free, right? Including most of the kids, although not all of them,
Right.
And then, as we were already talking about, Stuart getting whatever electronic device or phone at the end, and also Lang killing the German cop, which struck me as kind of stupid, but I guess we have to take it as if we take it on its face, right? It indicates, well, like he's really super serious about this plan if he's willing to kill this guy who got just a little bit suspicious, right?
You know, I I had that same thought because I think there's some dialogue there towards the end of the episode after he kills the German agent, where they're sort of radioing him, trying to find him, and they're basically saying, okay, if you don't, answer back, we're just going to leave without you. Like not thinking it's suspicious at all that he's not answering the radio. They're like, okay, we're taking off and going off to the next spot. So yeah, I didn't quite understand that. I mean, yeah, this guy seemed to be a little bit suspicious of Lane, but I think he probably could have taken a different route. But this is how we know that he's the one on the wrong side, I guess.
Right. I mean, it was just a little bit of suspicion. It wasn't like he had some kind of smoking gun, He's
Right.
just like, hey, who you been talking to on the phone, by the way? That's kind of weird. You've been talking on the phone a lot. You, maybe try lying before you just kill
Yeah.
the guy. Because as you say too, I don't know how realistic it is that the rest of the cops or whatever are just like, oh well, can't get in touch with that guy. I guess we'll just leave without him. What? I
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
go try to find him or find his dead body. I don't know. So I'm a little unsure about what the plan is um, in every direction. And I hope that they somehow manage to bring this together in the season finale in a way that works. But I'm a little worried about it. I'm not sure what Sam's plan is. I'm not sure what the bad guy's plan is exactly at this point, and I'm not sure what the authorities' plan is either. Maybe, I mean, should we
Yeah, the
take it
best
one at a time?
well, from Sam's perspective, the best I can come up with is he thinks that in some sort of handoff situation, the people behind this or the people that want John Bailey Brown are going to be present or see where he is or try to figure out what's happening so they can either come and take him as they're planning, or they are going to kill him or whatever, draw those people out into the open. And he just assumes that those people will be there. I mean, obviously, he has no concept that I don't think we have any indication that he knows that one of the guys from the hijacked plane has been interviewed, interrogated by Daniel. So how could he be assuming that someone like that would be involved? So there's a couple of flaws there from what I can deduce.
Yeah, if he's just thinking about Lang, who I believe is the guy he met in the bar,
Yeah.
then maybe it makes some sense for him to think that Lang will be there. They've also had some communication through Jess's cell phone and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Why not just let the passengers go at this point? Because Otto suggests that. And I suppose you're right. He has to be almost thinking at this point that he's either that he's going to turn the tables on the bad guys when it comes down to it, or he's still feeling the pressure of the fact that Marcia is being threatened, or both,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
But I still don't entirely get what the plan is, maybe because it's just really hard for me to conceive of the authorities actually handing John Bailey Brown over here.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if part of Sam's plan has ever involved that actually happening, it just doesn't feel super plausible to me. Um,
Yeah.
even I mean, and maybe that's a big difference between the train scenario and the plane scenario in season one, right? Because with the plane, the threat wasn't just, hey, maybe everyone on the plane will die. The threat was like 9/11. You know what I mean? Like
Yes. Yes.
we're gonna 9/11 this plane into London. And that's a much more serious threat than I think maybe they've said a couple hundred people at most on this train. Um, Not that you're just going to let them die. Yeah, you're going to try to save these people, but
Yeah.
the idea that they would actually hand over this, well-known criminal mastermind guy, and and then also, how do you get away? What, they bring him to the train? Okay, now
That's
he's on the train
yes.
too. Well, it's like the train's still on the tracks and so on.
Yeah.
Um,
The
so,
the
and
issue
then throughout the
the
whole
issue has
time, it's
been
also been this. Go ahead.
I think the issue has been for me, yes, some of the stakes of this that okay, you're right. I mean, there is sort of an implicit danger in a plane being hijacked, losing fuel, going to, as you said, going to crash potentially in a populated area versus this train, which, yeah, has dozens of people on it. But we saw in this episode, they can anytime cut the power and make the train stop, and know generally where it is. And then, yeah, just sort of not understanding what's potentially going to happen if they make it to this handoff area. I just, yeah, those stakes seem different and seem lower than the first season.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I guess from the perspective of the authorities, their plan is just to still somehow get him in a situation where they can save the hostages. But um, I've always thought that has to be a matter of, okay, well, we'll dangle John, like precisely what they were doing in the station in the Bergenstrasse or whatever, right? Like, oh yeah, here's John Braley Brown. Pay no attention to the cops behind the curtain. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So it seems to me like they still want to be doing something like that, although
exactly.
they have pretty well figured out at this point that Sam isn't really the one in charge. So I don't know. Is there some way in which Sam and the cops or whatever can work together to thwart the bad guys? That's sort of what I expect out of episode 8, I guess.
Yep. I completely agree. I think that there will be it will be a solution that probably seems reasonable, even though we may not understand quite yet what the goal of any side is. It's not going to I think be something that shocks us of how it comes to some sort of compelling conclusion. I think it'll just be Sam will get out of it. Something will happen to those
Yeah,
that are trying to rescue John Bailey Brown. Does anybody get away? That'll be the big question.
yeah. And I guess that's my problem with trying to figure out the bad guys' plan too, is it's all in the plausibility of the idea of the authorities actually letting John Bailey Brown go again. You know,
Yes.
in fairness, I guess they did do it once, but I was already talking about the difference potentially between the logic of thinking about it with the plane as opposed to, this train. One more thing I did want to talk about before we wrap up here is about Jess. Um, she dies in this episode. How much did you care?
Not really at all. Basically, she
Yeah,
served as a role that for about an episode, we realized that she was the one keeping the bombs from going off, but now everybody on the train knows how to do that, and she, explained what the numbers were, and I don't really know that. I don't know. I felt more sympathetic to some of the characters on the plane in the first season that were coerced into doing this thing as part of their, family, something happened to their families, their father was sick, whatever it was. Than Jess, I don't really understand her story and why she's doing it.
yeah, same. And this is what I want to talk about briefly is I feel like it's something of a failure of this season that they didn't make me care about her more. They didn't
Yeah.
they didn't take the opportunity to fill in her backstory or explain why she was doing what she was doing, or even have her offer an explanation that might be false. None of that, right?
Yeah.
She's just kind of there. We discovered that she was working with the hijackers, and she she never gets any real depth, I guess. Even in the other direction, that would be another possibility, right? Do something to make me hate her. You could like make me
Yes.
glad that she's
Exactly.
dead because she's. I mean, it's like okay, well, she killed that Freddy guy or whatever, and that was pretty cold. But she just doesn't get a lot of depth as a character ultimately. So in this episode, when she died, I was kind of like, okay. Um, Also, did they even like tend to her wound at all? It
Hmm.
kind of felt like
Seems
they
like,
didn't really.
yeah, it seems like Sam was just like, you're okay. You're gonna be okay. And Jessica just left there holding her shoulder the whole time.
They had they have a first aid kit, right? That was established before. I don't think they got the first aid kit unless I missed it. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention and I'm misremembering. But I kind of feel like they're just like, oh, you got a hole in your shoulder. That sucks for you. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, hopefully when we get to the season finale next week, we'll manage to tie things together in a way that works well enough. Season has been entertaining for me, regardless, even if I've been a little bit negative on it. Anything else you want to say on this one before we wrap up?
Nope, I think that's it. I think we'll hit the finale next week.
All right, that's the plan. So, if you listen to our main podcast, we're going to continue on after another brief musical interlude. We're going to talk about the season premiere of Paradise. If you happen to be watching, listening to this on YouTube, please do give a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can poke around a bit if you want. If you want to hear what we have to say about Paradise on YouTube, we'll also post something there. Okay, but if you're on the main podcast feed, we're just going to continue on here. Paradise premiered with 3 episodes on Hulu the other night. So we're going to talk about all 3 together, basically, and spoilers will be on the table then for everything in Paradise Season 1 and also Season 2, Episodes 1 through 3. We'll be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we are here to talk about Paradise Season 2. 3 episodes released this week on Hulu. Episode 1, Graceland. Episode 2, Mayday. And Episode 3, Another Day in Paradise. We'll try to do a quick recap of all 3 of these before we jump into our discussion. In Episode 1, we meet Annie, who prior to the apocalypse is taking a job as a tour guide at Graceland. She and her coworker Gail have to hunker down after the incident. Gail eventually dies. But it's been after 2 years, Annie notices some sunlight starting to come in, so she goes outside only to find a group that she first thinks is threatening, but then she learns that they are mostly harmless and they want to go shut down all the nuclear reactors around the country. They want to go to Colorado and kill someone named Alex. Annie becomes close with one of them named Link, but she refuses to go with him to Colorado. A few months later, not Alex, Annie is pregnant and sees a plane crash, which she tracks down that crash. She finds Xavier Collins unconscious. That leads us into episode 2, where we flash back to 2004 when Collins injures his knee badly when he's training to be a Secret Service agent. In the hospital, he meets Terry. He helps her when she loses her sight after scoliosis surgery. That flashes then forward to the present day when Collins crashes his plane and is met by a group of refugee children who help take care of him. He later kills a man who was stalking those children, but after being injured and stabbed, he passes out and wakes up and discovers that they stole everything from him and then tries to find his way to where he's going. Annie discovers him, and after she learns he come from the Colorado bunker, it threatens him and forces him to go with the bunker with her. In episode 3, we see Redmond wake up, but before that, we go to flash to her before the apocalypse when she met with a scientist who predicted the end of the world and said that conditions would get worse because of the buildup of greenhouse gases. She begins to work on a project to try to counteract that and hires agent Billy Pace, which we saw in the first season, to force a scientist to sell her his company, which is valuable information that she needs. The scientist euthanizes his wife before Pace kills him, and then he also begs Pace not to harm his protege, who we find out is Link. Back in the bunker in present day, Redmond is questioned by new President Baines and claims she doesn't know anything that's going on with this project. She's placed under house arrest and wants to know how Alex is doing. Agent Driscoll, still working with Redmond, kills President Baines and frames Agent Robinson for the murder. And then we close in the bunker prison where President Bradford's son Jeremy asks one of the scientists, Anders, to help to show him how to blow the doors off the bunker. I did look on August 1st of 2025. We did recap this whole first season on a podcast. If we want to go look at that, I think we were very intrigued and interested by a number of aspects of season one. Now we have 3 of the 8 episodes of season two. So the question is, are you still in after all this time and after these 3 sort of very interestingly structured episodes?
Yeah, no, I'm in. Give me more emo Phil Collins covers of the same song. I was talking to someone about the fact that this came out, or I was like letting them know in case they were, we're aware that season 2 had premiered, and he said, "Oh, they switch up the music." I was like, "No, of course not. Still the Phil Collins song. Always the Phil Collins song." Um, we even name an episode after the Phil Collins song. People love that song here. I'm definitely in, and we've talked about many times that I think both of us tend to prefer when something is released 1 episode a week. For me,
Hmm.
that includes season premieres usually, and even the premiere of a show for the first time, where sometimes I feel overburdened because they release 3 episodes. I do think 3 I can handle. Somehow 3 is the limit. Peacock has
Yeah.
done 4 episode premieres sometimes, and that's just too much. I don't know why. It's just like 4 hours in 1 week. What do you? Anyway, with this one, I thought it worked, and it made sense to me to get all 3 of these episodes given, um, the structure of things, where it's like episode 1 introduces us to Annie, episode 2 is focused on
Yeah.
Xavier, and it's not really till episode 3 that we get back to the bunker. So it kind of makes sense to me that they did put out all 3 of these the first week. What about you?
Yeah, I actually, when I saw that, I had exactly the same feeling. Like, oh, here we go again. They've done 3 episodes, for whatever reason. They just want to hook you into these and then make you wait week to week. But having these episodes focus on one character in particular, and the first episode being a character we've never met before, it did help to that there were these small pieces and strings that we pulled on that built on each other throughout these episodes and things that connected them to each other that even if we do end up in a lot of the seasons sort of jumping around from Xavier and Annie to the bunker to flashbacks, that I can see how they're starting to put the pieces together, and I'd be intrigued to see how it all works out.
Yeah, same. If anything, I felt like episode 2, maybe, I don't know. I don't even have a real complaint there, so I'll just not make it. You know what I mean? But episode, like, we could have maybe condensed a little bit there or something, right? In terms of focusing on Xavier, and then the flashbacks with when he met Terry when he was hurt in the hospital. I mean, it makes some sense. It's one of those things where it's like the present injury resonates with the past injury or whatever.
Right.
I get it. I was entertained, but I don't know that we needed it. I don't know. I don't know if this is me being a curmudgeon, but sometimes with some of the stuff, it's like I already knew he loved his wife.
Yeah.
I didn't really, I didn't really need you to drive home how much he loves his wife. Uh,
I
but
thought there
fair
was,
enough, you did.
they're trying to tell us a little bit more about how devoted and committed a person he is and how he will
Yeah.
even when his time in the hospital is up, he will stay and take care of her. And so just sort of that mission driven personality. It's like I think we knew that. So I was with you, but then I couldn't think of a way of how they would have built his story into either episode 1 or episode 3. So because that made sense, they had to give him a solo one.
Yeah, I think it works. Uh, I almost retract what I just said because maybe they did need to drive that home. One of the things I was thinking about after watching the 3rd episode, where things are sort of, things are sort of ultimately coming together. Was it in the 3rd episode or was this in the 2nd episode as well? It's running together for me a little bit. Sorry, because I watched them all 3. Okay, but it's the end of episode 2 when Annie has him handcuffed, right?
Yes, yes.
Um, And then episode 3, Another Day in Paradise, is focused in the bunker. Okay. But moving forward, perhaps in part because of how much they do drive home his love for his wife, Terry, none of me believes that he's going to immediately turn around and take Annie to Colorado.
No,
What about
no,
you?
not at all, not at all. And that to me means there'll be certainly that tension between the two of them. It will be a while before this group reunites with the bunker group. Like I said, I don't have complaints about it. It's just it's interesting that already we know that in 25% of the episodes of this season, your main star is not in them. And so is that something that continues throughout this season? I'll be curious to know. I don't want to go too many episodes of the season without Collins and what he's trying to do. And now, he's in Arkansas, wants to go to Atlanta, but she wants to go to Colorado. Um, but I mean, his engagement with the rest of the people in the bunker, I thought was some of the more stimulating stuff of the first season. I'm not sure we're going to get any of that.
I kind of doubt it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward, the episode jumps between locations or characters. You know what I mean? So instead of saying, okay, well, here's an episode focused on Xavier and Annie, and then here's an episode back in the bunker, I wouldn't be surprised if each episode cuts between those two storylines. I kind of hope it does.
Yeah.
If they don't, okay, but it's very hard for me to see. I don't think Collins is getting back to the bunker before the end of the season.
No, as I was saying, you and I watch a show that is a very, very similar structure, and I just don't see how that's possible. And maybe that's good. That means there'll be a third season where we have, him coming back to see what's transpired since he left. Clearly, a lot is going to and already has happened. But that would be hard to imagine that he just all of a sudden on horseback or whatever can make it from Arkansas to Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they'll get there in the first place, but I just have to think, particularly as I sat with it, okay, Annie's got him handcuffed. She's got a gun. Annie's got a gun, right? Um, and so on, right? But I feel like from what we know of Xavier as a character, again, there's no way he's going to say, okay, I'm just going to turn right back around and take you to Colorado without
Right.
even trying to look for my wife in Atlanta. There's no way. Like
Exactly.
he would I think he would say to her, "You can kill me if you prefer. I'm not going back until I've found my wife." Right? He's at least got to look for her. He's at least got to make a more of an attempt, right? So it'll be interesting to see how the dynamics between them play out. The fact that they made her pregnant also is a wrinkle there because, like, I don't know how much traveling around the country will she be able to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know how far along she is at this point. Um,
Yeah.
Visibly
She
pregnant, but
She doesn't look very like she's early. It looks like it's been a while.
yeah. And I guess they want to make it. I guess she wants to go to Colorado now because she's pregnant. Is that your read on things? Because Link
Yeah,
wants
they
her
would
to
have
go
that.
with him in the first place, and she doesn't. And but now she's pregnant.
Yeah, they would have medical care, certainly more than she could do herself. I mean, I
Yeah,
think again, no sense that she has any transportation other than a horse. I'm just not sure she's anticipating how hard that journey is is going to be.
yeah. Well, I mean, they have Elvis's cars, right? I don't know if any of them work or.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Link and the other guy said cars aren't terribly useful at this point in the world, but uh, I don't know. Clearly, highways wouldn't be well maintained or anything like that, so maybe that's part of it. But older cars would still work, I think, in contrast to newer cars, given
Yeah,
that there
no,
has been EMP.
yeah, no electronic components. That's right. That's why I think that group was saying some of the older things, yes, certainly had some more value these days. So that could work. It's a trying to think. Yeah, that really be the only option for them.
So, or the horse, or maybe it's still worse. I don't know. We'll see. We're getting ahead of ourselves on that front. I just think that Xavier's going to insist on going to Atlanta. He has to at least make more of an effort to find Terry. He's not going to give that up, right?
Right, exactly.
No matter how you threaten him or anything else. Can I throw in a brief aside, complaining about pregnancy as a plot device? Um,
I have to
because
admit, I was shocked. I mean, shocked when I saw that. I was like, "Oh, wow, you're going to introduce that into this story after they're together." I was really surprised they did that.
it's also maybe because also this week I was watching something else, and I guess to fully avoid spoiler possibilities, I won't even say what show it was, but it was a similar thing where it was like the two people had sex one time and then she's pregnant, and
Yeah,
it's just part of sitting here like, these people never heard of like pulling out, like what's going on, like like I mean, and in the real world too, all sorts of couples want to get pregnant and they have to work hard at it, and so it's like this plot device of, oh, they had sex one time and he's gone now, of course, same thing in this other
yeah.
show.
You got
He's out of the story and she's left alone with his baby because they had sex this one time, and
you got to be
it's not
mindful of that stuff,
implausible, I suppose, but it just
you
feels
got
a
to
little
watch
cheap to
that
me.
stuff in the apocalypse. You got to be careful.
Yeah, just whatever. A little cheap to me. What's it in The Last of Us too? They had something like this, right?
Yep,
Oops,
yep, they
pregnancy.
did.
Anyway, uh, hopefully I came across the right way. I am well aware, everyone, that women do get pregnant and it is possible and practice safe sex and all of that. It very much felt can be deployed as it's like there's a trope. You know, there's like a oopsie she's pregnancy trope. I guess
Yeah,
com- quote unquote complaining about a little bit. But that is a wrinkle in terms of what's going to happen as we move forward. That we have to deal with her pregnancy and then giving birth, and so I don't know. I mean, it's also I'm imagining that Xavier is going to insist on doing more to look for Terry, as I've said a few times, right? But say, okay, but sure, after I find my wife, I will take you back with me to Colorado. So I'm imagining that it's going to
yeah.
lead to Xavier and Annie traveling together. You two, is that what you think is going to happen?
Yeah, he clearly wants to find his wife, then go take her back to their kids. And so he wants to go back there. He feels like he left a place where his people are in charge and he can get back there because of relationships with Robinson and other people that and Redmond's been shot. So he can get back in. He just got to find his wife first. So he certainly wants to go back at some point.
Yeah, no, I guess I was thinking more from Annie's perspective, and maybe it's a minor tension, and maybe the fact that she's pregnant changes her thinking in a meaningful way, and that's part of
Yeah,
what they're doing there. Um, but like the fact that she didn't go with Link and the others in the first place, like she
right.
wants to stay there at Graceland alone, or would prefer to stay there alone. Um, that made some sense to me, at least. So if the shift in her thinking now is that she wants to go to Colorado because she's pregnant, that makes some sense to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Link's a father and all that. They were going to Colorado, and she doesn't want to be alone with a baby, and all that makes some sense to me. But if I'm presuming that Xavier is going to insist on doing more to look for Terry first, it doesn't make a ton of sense for me that Annie would go with, other than her not trusting him to come back for her or something like that. Again,
yeah.
anyway, I think that's what's going to happen.
That certainly is the case. Yeah, that's very valid.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Other things, maybe we need to talk more about the bunker. Anything else you wanted to say about Annie before we kind of leave that behind?
Um, no, I don't think so. I mean, clearly we're going to have some sort of Annie and Link connection in the future. We are going to about to talk to the fact of what Alex is. That comes up. So yeah, I think we can go on to the other ones.
Okay. Definitely, I mean, let me just say one last thing, I guess. which is I actually enjoyed this first episode of the season
Hmm.
a lot. I thought it was a very good episode. Clearly kind of a risk to begin the season with an episode centered on a character we've never met before.
Yes.
But I thought what they did there worked well and got me caring about this character and so on. And um, I also enjoyed the fresh perspective on what occurs with the event, which is, I think that's what they call it, right? The event,
The
whatever.
event is how I've seen it referenced.
The
Yeah.
the end of the world, basically. So I thought that was good. You mentioned Alex. To connect it up with Annie a little bit, she overhears Link and the other guy, whose name I didn't make a note of, talking about how they want to kill Alex in Colorado,
Right.
right? In the flashbacks with Billy and Patrick Fischler,
Yes.
RIP, I was excited about Patrick Fischler being in season 2. I guess it's just the one episode.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, he could be in more flashbacks, but probably not. The name of his wife is Alex, and so I guess what I'm slowly working towards is, do you think Alex is a person, or do you think it's the name of whatever Sinatra's quote unquote side project is?
Yeah, I think that the conclusion I drew was that the scientist named his company or named his project after his wife. That just stuck.
Yeah,
Link, being his protege, knew that that was the case, or certainly learned that that was the case after the fact. And so Sinatra and the others that are involved in this project, it's now become to them as well, colloquially known as Alex. And so that's what they want to go, quote unquote, kill when they get there.
I think so too. I'll be honest. I pulled up the IMDb for Paradise and started scrolling through to see whether we knew a character named Alex in this show, and like there was someone pretty far down. I don't really remember from season 1 who was named Alex. Um, could be, but or maybe that was the credit for his wife. Actually, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I was looking at it after season 2 had come out. This is my take on it as well, though. That what they're
yeah.
talking about is what they're calling Alex is the project or the device or what have you.
Mhm.
Um, so let's talk about this more because one of the things I think the show is doing, which I find quite interesting, is in relation to this question about like who we're rooting for.
Yeah.
Like if Blink and the others want to kill Alex or they want to destroy it, well, why would they want to do that when the indications we're getting on the other side of things and the flashbacks with Sinatra is that when she meets with that scientist and they drink the bottle of expensive scotch or whatever,
Mhm.
um, he says this stuff about the Venus scenario, right? He's like, okay, well, um, this is what's going to happen is basically what we've seen already happen with the event and its immediate aftermath. But then he says things are going to clear up. People are going to be happy that they survived. They think they'll make it through, but they don't know what's really coming. And what's really going to come is going to be worse. It's going to be the thing that spirals out to make the Earth like Venus, which I am aware there are people in the world who have mapped out that as a possible scenario with global warming and things like that for what it's worth. So what I'm putting together is that Sinatra's side project, which he thinks is really super important, is something that will keep that from happening. And if that's
Hmm.
the case, I would agree that is super important, right? So it's almost putting me on Sinatra's side here, if you follow. Like, why would this other group want to destroy the thing that's going to save humanity? I don't know.
Yeah, I
Thoughts on
would
all that,
say
or
I thought I knew the answer to that until we learned that Link was this scientist protege. And since, I mean, we assume he knows what the company does. He knows what something about what the project is. He knows what the science is behind what they're trying to do or what they're trying to steal by taking the company from them. I mean, I thought it was as simple as, whatever it is that Sinatra is doing seemingly controls their world or controls their environment or does something that does not allow them to have whatever, whether it's just personal or environmental freedom that they need. And so we're going to go stop this thing. But, with that group not knowing what the ramifications are if we turn it off. But now I'm kind of confused because Link
Right.
clearly would understand what she's trying to do, why it would be so important, why she would try to steal it. So there's some piece of information we don't have yet.
So does this put us on the path of the possibility that what it's going to do is going to kill a bunch of people? I guess that's one. Like Link understands what the thing would do. Still, I mean, maybe I need to spell that out more. What I'm thinking is it possible that this is some device that will prevent the Venus scenario from happening through, yeah, something akin to an ice age or something that's not going to kill all the surviving human beings that are out there or something like that,
Yeah.
where it could make some sense. Say, oh, we got to stop that. We have to stop her from killing everyone. But even if it were something like that, which maybe it will be, yeah, it's a rough trade-off. But part of me still thinks, like if that's what you have to do to keep the planet from turning into Venus, maybe that's what you have to do. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I also wonder if it's like um, she's figured out how to isolate it to just the people in the bunker or something that, it only protects them, or there's only a sense of, that there are people that are under its protection that, and not everyone else is sort of an, this is an eat the rich scenario where, no, you don't get to have exclusive rights to this thing. You give it to all of us, or you give it to none of us, that type of situation. I don't know, but it could be okay, we're just going to draw the power away from the bunker to make sure we're taken care of, but certainly we don't have enough power to make sure the whole country or globe is taken care of.
Yeah, that's an interesting possibility. You know, but then the fact that they use the word kill when they talk about killing Alex. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We just got to wait for more information there. But I'm definitely intrigued. Uh, I'm going to try to refrain for the most part from making too many complaints about plausibility on this show. But because it's just like, no, that's not the point. Nothing's plausible about this. But I don't know how plausible I find it that it seems like this is Sinatra's secret project. And I don't know. I just part of me has a feeling like if it really is as important as I think it is, that
Yeah.
other people should also know about it. And you kind of get the impression that they don't really, or not very many do. And I don't know. I'm curious to see where that goes as well. But just logistically, you know, it would be pretty stupid if Sinatra dying at the end of season one had meant, oh, well, that plan's over,
Yeah.
something like that. So like, there have to
It's
be others who know to carry it out.
Yeah, I do wonder how many people that we're introduced to this season are uncovered as, agents of Sinatra and are working for her, such as Billy was and Driscoll is. Dr. Tarabi was at one point, but is not anymore. So how many people working for her are keeping these secrets or a part of this thing? Yeah, that's probably something still to come as we learn more about what it exactly is that she's doing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. What's going to happen here? I mean, there are a couple of things to talk about in terms of the politics in the bunker.
Mm.
You mentioned Driscoll, Jane, sociopath, should have given her that we and so on.
Yeah.
But the yeah, as you just said, she's clearly working for Sinatra and working to get back into Sinatra's good graces after she shot her at the end of season one. Is all that hang together for us well enough? Like, do we? I guess we have to
I,
believe that she shot her to keep Xavier from killing her. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and then I was so confused by that not confused. I was more chuckling at the conversation like, Sinatra, what do you remember about what happened? Oh,
Yeah,
I remember nothing. Trauma sure does things to your brain. oh, okay, well, if you remember, like, she's clearly not telling her the truth, that you either are believing that or not believing it and playing like you don't. So it just, she clearly knows what she did to her, is going to hold that against her at some point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't believe that Sinatra doesn't remember. Um, but thinking from Jane's perspective in terms of her motivation of shooting Sinatra, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we have to believe what she said, which is that she thought Xavier was going to kill her, and so she shot her, but purposefully
Yeah.
shot her in a way where she'd be able to survive.
Yeah. That's the only conclusion I can draw. I think that's exactly it.
But wasn't she also mad at Sinatra in season one about the whole we thing and everything? I
Yes,
don't know.
but I think she also understands where her power comes from and where the opportunity comes from, and it's not going to be from Collins, although Collins does trust her. She thinks that Sinatra can be the one to help. I mean, how far you can elevate in a bunker of 25,000 people, I don't know, but that Sinatra is the one that's going to have the power.
Yeah. So we get the little through the flashback we learn about the breath mint thing, right? So that was a secret order and so on. Jane kills the president. She's at the end of the day framing Robinson. It seems clear to me that could not have been her original plan because she didn't know Robinson was going to show up, right?
Yeah,
She's taking advantage of that ultimately, but first she puts an X on him in blood or whatever, which would indirectly be blaming the youths who are causing trouble, including
yeah,
Xavier's daughter and Jeremy, the Cal's son, right? But that would have left things just kind of nebulous or whatever. This is how I'm reading it anyway, because Robinson is on her way there. Then she said, "Okay, well, here's an opportunity to frame Robinson, who is on to her." So I'm curious to see how that is going to play out as
yeah.
well.
That may end up being sort of the, I don't know, the downfall of all this. But yes, her plan was clearly to mark Pierce with an X to make it look like that revolutionary group was responsible for this. Then Robinson shows up, so to make it look like she did it. But now you also have to convince people that she was a part of that, that put the X on him before or after he died and before Driscoll was able to kill her. And so yeah, there's sort of a stretch or leap you have to make there. Yeah, I think this Driscoll showing up is going to somehow end up being what helps unravel this whole plan. I'm sorry, Robinson showing up helps unravel all that.
Yeah. Um, two different directions I want to go at once, but I guess first, let me ask: do you remember why Jane killed Billy? I remember clearly from season one that she did, but I was struggling a little bit to remember exactly why she did.
Yeah, I think that he got just totally disenfranchised with what Sinatra was doing, basically saying, "I want out." He
Yeah,
went and had this night with Xavier and his kids. It's like, this is so fun. He's like, just enjoy your night. Xavier, I got some things to tell you in the morning. And then he
right.
goes home, and that's when he gets poisoned. I think it was just Sinatra saw him as a liability and he didn't obviously know anything about Driscoll being on her side as well.
No, yeah, because they were like together, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, definitely remember her killing him. Yeah, okay, I think you're right there. That so just him kind of turning on Sinatra and so on, because part of why I wanted to refresh my memory on that was that is what Robinson is discovering, right? Like she's looking at
Yeah.
the files on Driscoll, and it's like the one file where it's like everything is redacted to the point where it's like, why do you have a file if it's that redacted,
Right.
But she finds the engagement ring and so on. And the official story is that Billy killed himself, right? So she's got suspicious of all of that, and that's why she's coming after Jane. That's why she's on to her. So we'll see what happens. The other direction I wanted to go in at sort of the same time in our conversation is who becomes the president now? Do we know who becomes the president now? Did they establish who the new vice president was?
No,
I don't feel
I
like they
think
did.
it just opens the door for it to become Sinatra. Sinatra will say, look, the people that were responsible for guarding him, one of them was corrupt, one of them was responsible for this. We need a strong leader to help put this group down that killed him. They were able to infiltrate our Secret Service. Driscoll is, the best person we have. I think it's just opening the door eventually for a healed Sinatra to take that role.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. For her to take power back,
Yeah.
definitely. But maybe it's just because her character, right? She doesn't strike me as the kind of person who becomes the president. She strikes me as the kind of person who controls multiple presidents over the course of time. If you follow me there,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like
true. That's true.
her character is the kind of person who's like more powerful than the president when it comes down to it, and to
Yes,
where
yes.
actually being the president would almost be some step down or something, if that makes sense. So I feel like even if this is a matter of her really taking over power in the bunker, that she would want some kind of figurehead or something to actually be the president, someone she could control. But
Yeah, as long as she can pull the
with the
strings,
public face.
she'll be happy with what she's doing.
And then how far does she go in terms of following the frame job that Jane has set up and so on? Because that wasn't, well, I don't think that was really part of her initial plan. Um, she basically did tell Jane or whoever listening who had the opportunity, I guess, to kill President Baines. So James does that, but then framing Robinson, or also kind of framing, what do we want to call them, the resistance or what have you, whoever's been putting X's
Right.
around town. Um, I don't think there's any indication that they talked that through or anything like that. I'm just wondering, okay, how far is Sinatra going to go in kind of prosecuting people like Robinson, and then it also becomes Xavier's kids, Jeremy, right?
Yes.
I don't know who else, but those are the ones we know have been involved in uh, the X's and so on, I believe, right?
Yeah, Jeremy clearly is going to have a primary role this season in some kind of resistance effort, as you labeled. I think he was maybe even been upgraded to main cast for this season. So yeah, clearly he has got a big role to play here, and probably as his dad was leaving clues. I wonder if we see a lot of that, right? If we see Cal
Mm-hmm.
Bradford, we find more clues and more things that he left for his son to uncover throughout this season that could help him with that effort. I would anticipate we start to. I mean, we didn't get any Cal Bradford in any of these three episodes except in the
Yeah, we did.
flashbacks, did we? What did we
Well,
get
in the
him?
it can only be in flashbacks at this point, Ryan. The man's dead,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right?
But I mean, like
So,
from
but
the
yeah, no,
from things. No, do we get new flashbacks?
yeah, there was. Remember, it was like a flashback the night he won the presidency, and
Oh, that's right. And his dad's there. Yeah,
his dad's there, and Sinatra ends up having this conversation, telling him about the. I should have made a note of Patrick Fischler's character's name as well. Anyway, if we got it, I
Henry
could have
Miller.
assigned this
Henry
guy.
Miller.
What is it?
Henry Miller.
Henry Miller. Okay. Well, so anyway, she's telling Cal's dad about how he won't sell his technology or his business or whatever, and
Yeah,
then that leads to her introduction to Billy, right?
that's right. That's right.
So it was really only a little bit of Cal, but I guess it indicated to me that there's a likelihood that we'll get some more little flashbacks of him at least. James
Yeah.
Marsden's still around as a part of the show. I think at least as like a minor character at this point. I am curious. Any thoughts about what Jeremy is up to? You mentioned how he talks to Anders about blowing the doors off the bunker. I don't know if that's a direct
Yeah.
quote. He says something like that, where I'm not entirely positive what he means. I don't know. Any thoughts about what he might be up to, what he might want to do?
Yeah, I don't know how much I subscribe to that being, literally we're going to blow the doors off this place and get out of here, but more that you built this place, Anders. He says, I didn't work with anybody. I created this. It's like, so you built this place. You know what's happening here. So we're going to work together now that we're both here in prison to expose what's going on here. Basically, pick up the end of my dad's life, his mission, and carry this forward. I think there's a sense of Anders thinks people in charge are ridiculous and morons. Jeremy thinks that they're whether they're authoritarian or sort of have their thumb on everything that's going on, and so together we're going to uncover all of this.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think so. I'm also thinking about how he could mean kind of literally opening it up, right? So if they know that there are survivors out there in the world and they've got this bunker that is, a safe place for people to live and so on, that they've closed off the rest of the world from paradise, and
Yeah.
there's a kind of class element to this and so on and so forth,
Hmm.
where maybe he does have in mind opening it up, kind of literally. Hey,
Yeah.
come in. But
I mean, yeah.
um, so I don't know. Really
I
curious
did
to see
I
where
did
this all goes.
yeah, I did get curious. I just looked this up. So um I wonder how much we'll see James Marsden this season. I had forgotten he is now a regular. He is a co-star on Your Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm, Apple TV. He is finished filming, but now is going to have a lot to do with the Avengers Doomsday movie. He's part of the Sonic the Hedgehog 4 movie. I wonder if we're going to get, as you indicated, much less of Cal Bradford this season as we did last season.
I would expect it won't be too much. I mean, it also doesn't make a whole lot of narrative sense, even
Yeah,
in terms of what he knew. I feel like season one established that it wasn't a ton. Like he kind of figured some stuff out about what's really going on, but he
yeah,
didn't have full information for the most part either. And then, of course, as you'll recall, he's killed because he made a mixtape or whatever, right? And like that twist in terms of him being killed by the librarian guy or whatever, it was like it didn't have anything to do with the underlying conspiracy or anything like that. So
yeah,
um, I would expect he might show up now and again, but I don't. Yeah, probably it won't be a lot.
yeah. I think that's a good assumption.
Yeah, I do enjoy his character on the show though, so always happy
Yeah,
to see him if it
I'm
makes
young, bro.
sense.
That's how I talk.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. His son Jeremy, that character, I have to say, I like a bit less, and
Hmm.
I hope he grows on me over the course of the season because he is sort of set up to be a major player as we move forward um, with the plot here. So hopefully he grows on me a bit. Maybe he will. Okay, let's see. Anything else we want to hit on and talk about in these first three episodes?
Well, I think that's it. Very curious to see how it all starts to get tied together with just one episode next week.
Yeah, same. All right, well, we'll leave it there. We'll pick up next week, continuing our coverage of Paradise. And also, we've been talking about Hijack. So we'll wrap up our discussion of Hijack next week as well, and then continue with Paradise week to week, moving into the future for the next bit. So thanks as always for listening to the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out TVObscessive.com. You'll find written work there on any number of TV shows. And You can follow us on social media. Search for TV Obsessive. You should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back with you next week.
All right. Looking forward to that. We will see you then.